Hi, I'm Kerry Grinkmeyer. I'm the host of Best of Us Investors, and I try to share my knowledge that I've acquired as a retired financial advisor and my continuing study of the stock markets and involvement in the stock markets. I built one of the largest financial planning practices in the United States under the umbrella of Ameriprise and sold it in 2005. And basically didn't do anything for, I guess, almost 10 years, and then got involved in YouTube and sharing my knowledge on the stock market. One of my largest holdings is Google. It represents 7% of my portfolio, and it's a stock I have no intention of probably ever selling. And it's becoming more and more apparent to me as to why I will never sell it. And one of the experiences I had that cemented that just happened last night as we were watching the Kennedy Center awards. I constantly went to my phone and spoke to it and asked, how old is Joan Baez? How old is Garth Brooks? How old is Dick Van Dyke? Do you realize Dick Van Dyke is 95 years old? Wow, what a guy. So I got to thinking that really what is uniquely happening in our world is this thing has become an extension of my mind. And that is to say, I know things, but I can't remember them. So I ask my phone, and my phone gives me my answer. I've realized that in the human experience, that we have a tremendous capability to take in data. And think again of your mind as the same as a data gatherer or a data vacuum. And that's what Amazon and Google and Microsoft basically do, is they gather data. Well, the difficulty in the human mind is then putting that data out. It goes in rapidly. It has difficulty putting it out. We have to think of the words we're going to speak. The mind works its best in our middle years. It doesn't work real good as a child, as an infant, and then it doesn't work real good as you age. You just can't remember, and then disease comes in. So I got to thinking about that and how that relates to Google stock and how it gives me a view of what's going to happen in the future relative to Google stock and why I might want to add to my holdings. So I did some research on Google's current and recent activities, and then tried to project into the future what I think might happen with Google stock and how Google is just really a big part of my ability to extend my brain's capacity. So let's talk about that, and let's see if you want to add to your positions of Google. I certainly hope you own some of it, because it is one of the major players in the future of our life. Okay, I'll be right back with you.
Best of Us Investors presents Kerry Grinkmeyer.
One of the things I noticed, I own some speculative stocks in the biotech, in 3D printing, in robotics, areas where I think the future is going to grow. But probably 75% of my portfolio is wrapped up in what I call the big six, and Google is one of those, the people who control data. And I noticed that my speculative stocks have taken a beating as we made this rotation away from tech, which I think the future lies with, to more of value, as the economy or as the markets started to fear inflation and potential rising interest rates. I think that's a bunch of nonsense because you just can't stop the technology. It may pull it back a little bit when fears enter the market and say, "Oh, I don't really know where this is going, so I'm going back to the banks and the energy and things like that." But technology, I'm not sure about it. Well, you're not sure. If you're not sure about it, it's because you don't read. It's you don't study what the people who really look in depth say is going to happen in the future. And I think I noticed that Google is one who didn't really fall back. In fact, just this last Friday, it reached close to its all-time high. And that's in part because Google came out with earnings in the first quarter, and they're just blowing the doors off. Revenues quarter to quarter were up 34%, and that is actually a year over year. And their revenues were at $55 billion. And their operating income for quarter to quarter doubled to $16 billion. And I know those are big numbers and they're hard to really translate, but I want to show you this graph here of the 12-month revenues growth. And you can see, you could almost start with a line at the first year, and it's almost a straight line of growth. And this is just continuous. What's also interesting about that is while the revenue's growing, the cost of selling and general administrative expenses is going down. Look at this graph here. So think of this as you own a business and your sales keep going up, but your cost of sales go down. Well, what does that mean? That means your margins go up. So whereas maybe you were making 34 cents on the dollar of a sale last year, this year you're making 42 cents. So what that does is create more free cash flow. And free cash flow then opens opportunities to you. What kind of opportunities? Well, if you have free cash flow, it doesn't cost you. It's costing you less to make the same dollar you did. You then have choices as to what to do with that cash flow. Should you expand? Should you improve your operating system, or should you go out and buy up some new startup company that enhances your ability to grow even more? And again, I want you to think about what Google really is and go back to what I just said earlier, that it's an extension of your brain. Now, what does that mean? As I said, when I don't know the answer to a question, if Nita asks me a question, I just pick up my phone and I ask Google. And Google gives me that answer. So that's an extension of my brain. Now, what happens when this takes the next step? And what is the next step? The next step is this moves from here to here. This moves from here to here. I watched an interview with Elon Musk, and Elon was talking about, he called it, I think, a neuro implant. And what he was talking about was taking something about the size of a silver dollar and drilling a hole in my head, and it would have electrodes, and then those electrodes would go to my brain. And he's saying initially, he's saying this could happen really before the end of the year, that they could be testing it on humans who have brain injury, okay? They've had a stroke. They have brain injury. They know the source of that injury, and they know how to correct that injury by taking an electrode through this little silver dollar hole in my head and putting that wire into that part of my brain that is damaged, and then using this implant to stimulate that part of my brain so it removes the problem. And again, think of it, I had a stroke. I can't use the right side of my arm or leg, or maybe part of my face is skewed, and this electrode stimulates that part of the brain, so that all goes away. Okay? That's what Elon is saying is going to happen. Then what he is saying is going to happen is we're then going to take what's in the phone. I did a video on hyperinflation, and you saw me ask Google, what is hyperinflation? And then I held it out and it spoke it. Well, what Elon is saying is that within 5 years, I'll be able to think that. And I'll be able to think, what is hyperinflation? And it will transfer it to my mouth, and I will speak what Alexa or whoever it is, Google, said on my phone. That's where this is going. That's where this is going. So, okay, what does that have to do then with Google? Well, who do you think's going to provide all this information as to what is hyperinflation? Who do you think now has a direct track to my mind, so that when I think, wow, I need a new pair of Nike black shoes that has the air pockets in it, who do you think had just read that in my mind? I didn't say it. I didn't type it. I didn't broadcast it. I just thought it. Who do you think has the access to my thoughts now? Who do you think's going to take that data and feed it back to me? And when I open my phone, there will be a picture of the Nike shoes that I want. Actually, I just ordered them. They'll be here probably before the end of the week. That's where this is going. And then I look at Google, and as I say, should I buy more of it or shouldn't I? And I see its growth margins. So in essence, it's telling me it's growing at a rate of 34% per year, and it doesn't have this yet, but it's in the future. So if its margins are growing at 34%, and then I want to show you this graph here, where it's showing you the capital expenditure. That is, how much are they spending to improve their business relative to the growth in their capital. And you can see that their expenditures are pretty much level since 2018, while their revenues are going up. So this is what's called growing free cash flow. And it's growing most recently at the rate of about $50 billion in free cash flow. So what do they do with that free cash flow? Okay, I own a business. I do own a business. It generates more than I need to run my house and do. What do I do with that free cash flow? I buy more stock. I build other houses. Or what Google might do is buy back shares. If they buy back shares, then there are fewer shares out there, so the value of my share goes up. So I look at that and say, okay, they've got a company where they're making more money and it's costing them less to make more money, and they're either going to buy back the shares or they're going to jump all over this thing they're going to put in my head. And this stock is just going to go crazy. Because, think about it. If somebody brings that to you, the ability to make you smarter, you become more productive, you earn more money, you become more valuable to society, and your position in life improves as well. So why wouldn't I want to make this more than 7% of my holdings? I'm troubled to find a reason why. I just think, And then I look at it and I say, okay, is there someone else who potentially could do this? I don't see it being Microsoft's Explorer or Bing or Firefox or anybody like that. I don't ask them. Now maybe you have an iPhone and you ask, is it you ask Alexa. So that tells me, okay, I want to own more Apple and Siri. That's Apple's. I want to own more Apple and Amazon as well, because that's where this is going. Elon's going to put that chip in my head, and he'll make money off of that. But he's got to have somebody who provides the data that I want to communicate. Okay? This is an extension of my brain, and it's going to move up to here. And you're going to have somebody facilitate it. And I think that's Google and Apple and Amazon. You'll pick which one you want. Okay. Then I think we talk about good debt, a company's debt. I want you to see this graph. This is a graph, and as the chart goes down further, that means this is all the less debt that Google has. It's a company that, if it wanted to, it could eliminate all its debt and operate debt free. So again, a reason why. So how do you value this? Well, most stocks are valued at price to earnings, and Google's price to earnings floats between 29x and 35x. Got as high as 35x, I believe it was in 2019. Well, its earnings are growing at 20% per year. So that would tell me if I'm pricing it, if I'm projecting the value of it in the future relative to price to earnings, the price should grow at 20% a year. Are you okay with that? I am. Then we have free cash flow. The historically, it's sold at 27x free cash flow. That's currently at $50 billion a year and growing. That's free cash flow. And it's growing as a result of their cost of business going down as well. Their margins improving. So I'm okay that the price of the stock relative to free cash flow is going to either stay at 27 and it's growing, so it will grow proportionately, the price will grow proportionately. And then price to revenue is normally 5x. And as I said, their margins, their revenue is growing at a 34% rate, up to $55 billion in the first quarter. So again, if it's growing at 34%, then if you're pricing it relative to revenue, the price should grow at 34%. So I look at this and I say 20% per year, 34% per year, if in fact the price of Google is held true to the factors it's used, the 29x, the 27x, the 6x of the past. So why wouldn't I want to own one of the most profitable companies in the world that is attached to the technology that's going to take this out of my hand and put it in my head? Why wouldn't I want to own that? I don't know. Why wouldn't I want it to be a major part of my portfolio? I do. I will. And that's how I look at investing. I have a privilege a privilege as an American citizen to claim ownership in some of the best companies in the world. Hell, I just heard this morning that Jeff Bezos and his brother on July 20th are going to hop into their Blue Horizons rocket and go up and spend like 2 minutes, 7 minutes in space. I can own part of that. I wish I could sell him the insurance policy. We're in a unique position where I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room to own some of the smartest companies in the world. Now, Elon's little implant isn't for sale yet. He's keeping that off the table. You don't get part of that when you buy Tesla. But certainly when it does go public, I want to be a part of that. I just think it's fascinating that where these people are taking us is that when it was explained to me that it's all about the amount of data I can take in relative to the amount of data I can put out, and then I can gain the benefit of artificial intelligence and machine learning to magnify the capabilities of my brain. And it's only 3 years, 5 years away. God, I hope I live long enough to see this. I just can't imagine the changes in productivity when you can put artificial intelligence not in a computer, but in my brain, and machine learning in my brain. My ability, I think someone asked me, what is your strength? And it's logic. I understand how to connect the dots. If somebody could increase my brain's capabilities 2x, 5x, 10x, it scares me what I might be able to do. This is earth-shaking. Okay, that's how I think. I was encouraged when I learned that the people at Google think the same way I think. The people, Elon Musk, thinks the same way I think. That we are at the starting point of the most magnificent changes in the world, and we're going to get to experience it. Okay, that's my take on why you should own more Google, why you should be a part of Best of Us investors. I don't think like most people. I'm going to make a commitment, and I'm going to reiterate that commitment, that I'm going to do everything I can to get the opportunity to sit down with people like this, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. I'll start with the smaller ones because I think I have clout enough to get that done. But to get with Elon, I got to have at least 1 million subscribers. And only you can make that happen. And you know how to do it. Okay, I'll talk to you again tomorrow.